What up, everybody? This is Dregs One. Welcome to another episode of the History of the Bay podcast, recorded at Empire Studios in San Francisco. Got my man Trevor Potter behind the lens, and today we got another special guest. This guy's been doing his thing for a long time in a lot of different circles and a lot of different spaces that your average rap cat doesn't show up. He does his own thing, carves out his own lane, his own sound, multi-talented, a lot of different directions, a lot of legendary collaborations over the years. Definitely putting it down for a long time for all the lyrical rap cats out there. Talking about the one and only Lyrics Born in the building.
Yeah, man, what's good with you?
Throwing up the funk.
Come on, man, every day. Yeah, bro.
Yo, you've been going crazy lately, dude.
It's been wild, bro. It's been wild. I'm so. Which one is my camera? Just so I know. Which one y'all pointing at? The middle one? That one right there. Okay, cool. It's been crazy, man. You know, I'm having a time of my life, to be honest, bro. You know, it's my 16th album, Goodbye Sticky Rice. I'm on fire on the internet. My number's on fire, bro. Like birthday candles. You know, it's been really cool, man.
So were you just like messing around, like experimenting with different content, and then you just threw something up and it went up, or was it a little more strategic and focused in the approach?
It was a little bit of both, you know. I mean, we gotten to the point where it's like, oh man, these videos, no music videos, proper music videos are going viral. We got to do something else, you know. We got to try something else, and so. My previous album, I did an acoustic album. And so me and my team, we were like, you know, let's just shoot some shit in the park, bro. Let's see how it goes. Let's just wear what you normally wear. We'll throw on some, you know, we'll do some experiments, man. And then if it works, hey, man, maybe we can find a way to strategically implement them, you know. And so we did it for that album. They look great. You know, at first I was like, you know, because I've been making music and videos for a long time. I'm like, I don't know if motherfuckers gonna feel this iPhone bullshit, you know what I mean? But we did it, and there was some buzz there, you know. But again, it's an acoustic album, so I don't know that we were expecting incredible, huge, gigantic results off of old songs that we just replayed, you know what I mean? But when it came time for Goodbye Sticky Rice, it was like, okay, we got a clip of brand new joints, you know, let's try it with this now. And then, you know, I'll tell you, bro, we dropped that first one for Take It Too Far, and D calls me up, he's like, bro, we're going mini viral. I'm like, what's that mean? You know, he's like, well, we're at about 10 or 20,000 views, you know, on TikTok. We're going mini viral. Right. I'm like, okay, cool. Next thing I know, bro, you know, I'm sure we'll talk about this, but I'll just say, man, so I'm looking at my phone, I'm looking at my DMs, and Snoop Dogg's hit me with all these emojis. You know what I'm saying? Like an explosion, a thumbs up, a microphone. I'm like, oh, okay. I don't know Snoop. You know, first of all, I don't know Snoop. I never met him before, man, but shout out to the dog, bro. And then I see in my notification, Snoop Dogg is following you. I'm like, okay, that's cool. Next thing I know, bro, an hour later, I check back. My shit is just exploding on Instagram. And I look at it, and Snoop reposted that video for Take It Too Far. Uh-huh. And the only caption was, dope. You know what I mean? Next thing I know, he's at 4 or 5 million views with it. And then my shit just started taking off, bro. It looked like a motherfucking slot machine, bro. Yeah. It was just like, you know what I mean? Yeah. And it was wild, bro. So next thing you know, man, first of all, shout out to the dog, bro. He didn't have to do that, bro. Uh-huh. He didn't have to do that, you know? I mean, like I said, I don't know him. We don't have a relationship, you know? He's got his own artist with his own label and his own roster and his own music, bro. Right. You know, but he reposted it because he felt it, you know, and I will forever be, you know, in gratitude to Snoop, man, you know. And then ever since then, every single one we've dropped has done no less than 2 million views, 3 million views, no less.
Yeah.
Bro. It's great. We're at like somewhere between, it's going up every day, but somewhere between 25 and 30 million views now, cumulative, in aggregate.
Incredible.
As they say, you know.
Incredible, bro. Congrats, man. Congrats on
Thank you,
the
man.
success. It's crazy to see someone that has been in the game as long as you adapt to the new method of content, because I say you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Not that you're an old dog, and not that I am either, but it's hard to adapt for some people.
Shout out to my old dogs.
Yeah.
That's hella funny. Okay, yeah.
But, you know, like, people are resistant. You know, people are resistant to TikTok. People are resistant to content. A lot of people say, I hate content. I don't want to make content. And I look at it like, bro, MTV Cribs was content.
That's right.
A radio interview with just audio was content.
You're absolutely right, bro.
A cameo in a movie was content.
For sure.
So if you just get comfortable with putting yourself out there, and comfortable taking a couple, like, I guess you could call them L's, right? You might throw something up, it might get 100 likes. Whoops. Throw something else out, it might get 1,000. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And then throw something else out, and it might just 2 million views. You know what I mean?
You're absolutely right, bro. And first of all, thank you for saying that. You know, I appreciate that. But I have those moments too, man. I was like, you know, I'm not sure that I want to be that kind of artist, you know. But as I thought about it, this is the best time for guys like us.
Yeah.
This is the best time. And you got to understand, man, my journey and my path historically has always been different than any other artist in my peer group, you know, who I started with, the style of music that I make versus other artists, maybe just in general, but also in my peer group. So I have to be open to these. I felt like I had to be open to these new methods because a lot of the old establishment methods were never available to me. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
So for me, and you know, we could talk about this if you want, man, but for a guy that came up, that got my start in the 90s, seeing everybody around me, every single person in my peer group get signed to major labels, but those same people that signed my friends and sometimes re-signed my friends, you know what I mean? For those people to turn to me and say, you're too hard to market, right? You're too hard to market. When I had the same numbers or better, I had the same ticket sales or better, I had more radio play, more this, more that. At a certain point, you're like, you don't like me because I'm Asian, bro. How could you not? I'm too hard not to market, bro. What are you talking about? You know what I mean? So it told me I got to go out and make my own moves.
Yeah.
What's available to us, if that's what I need to do, you know?
Yeah, it's a tool, man. It's like fighting that inner voice that what you said, I don't want to be that kind of artist. Well, I don't define what kind of artist you are.
Right.
Unless you're like, I make little TikTok dances. That's
right.
what I do. Like, nah, you just make music and and you document it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, so there's nothing wrong with using that tool, and it's foolish to ignore like the discoverability algorithms that something like TikTok or Instagram Reels or YouTube Shorts provides. And I know because I fuck around and go viral every month my damn self.
Facts.
And I had that same experience of bing, 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 follow, comment, DM, ding, 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 ding.
Right.
And then every now and then it slows up, and then I just throw something else out there, and it goes back up again.
And let me tell you the beauty of all this shit that you know. Motherfucker, it's free.
Yeah.
It is free.
Yeah.
You know, independent artists out here going broke, but, you know, paying for all this shit, you know, the this and that, the videos, the this, all these videos that you see that I'm doing 2 million, 3 million views on, maybe at the tail end we'll throw $5, $10 at the motherfucker. You know what I mean? It's free.
Yeah.
All it costs you is your time, bro. You know what I mean? And it's like, tell me a time in history, right, when you could do that, when you could be an artist, basically going internet platinum, not spend a dime, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a godsend for artists. You know what I'm talking about? And like, I have the benefit of my experience, like everything that I've gone through. I have the benefit now to be able to learn from the younger upcoming art. Like, I learned from LaRussell, you know what I mean? I see what he's doing. I learned from Seiji. I see what he's doing. I see how Russell affected Rich, you know what I mean? So I can see how these new models are coming into play for veteran artists. You feel me? So, like, it's a beautiful time, bro. You just have to be open to it, man. And you have to be willing you got to be willing to do the work too. You know?
Absolutely. And you know, I deal with I pride myself on being diverse in who I rock with in terms of the younger generation.
For sure.
And the elder generation, for lack of a better term. And I just, you know, as I get older, I love to see that, bro, it's never too late. It's never too late to, like, you know, like, I'm sure you remember being 30 in hip hop years was like, 30?
Yeah.
Old ass man, just retire already.
Right.
And, you know, I just talked to Short. He's almost 60 years old.
Right.
And you could say he's at his peak.
For sure. Yeah, for sure.
Dropping
Absolutely,
movies and albums and all types of shit. So it's just exciting to know that, like, and especially, too, because they thought hip-hop was a fad.
Yeah.
That, nah, it's like 50 years of hip-hop, and there's still so many possibilities to keep going and expand.
Yeah, that's right. And I think what you said there, man, it's absolutely key, bro. Okay, so I'll give you a funny example, bro, right? I'll give you a funny example. So, you know, before this album came out, this is 6 months now, the Goodbye Sticky Rice has been out, right? So before this album came out, before Snoop reposted me, I was probably 22,000 followers on Instagram.
Still, you know? Very good.
It's cool. It's respectable.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? 6 months later, bro, I'm at 155.
Right.
6 months later. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Right.
And the beauty of the platforms is you go behind the curtain, bro. I can see who's following me.
Mm-hmm.
My demo, and I'm not saying this because I'm trying to brag. I'm just trying to show older artists, veteran artists, there is a path forward. You know what I'm saying? And younger guys who want to be in the game for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
That there is a path forward. So I'm looking at the analytics, bro. My biggest demographic prior, when I was at that 20,000 level, was probably 30. You know, they show you the graph. It was 35 to 45.
Mm-hmm.
My biggest demo now, by far, 20 to 35.
There you go.
My audience is trending younger, bro.
Yeah.
It's outrageous.
Yeah.
I love it. And the comments I'm seeing, bro, let me tell you, funny to your point, bro. The funniest comment I saw just goes to show you it's never too late to start.
You're like, motherfucker, I started in 1991.
But you know what? I'll take it.
Yeah.
I'll take it. If I'm a new artist for y'all, cool.
Yeah. Well, I do
You
feel
know?
like that applies to people who don't have that background. Like, if you are 30, 40, 50 and you want to jump in and create some art, then what the fuck?
Yes.
Man?
Yeah.
Knock it out the park.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Plus, I mean, motherfucker, I look good. You know, so there is that. You know, but yes.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
it would
saying?
be a little different if you're like glasses, sweater. You know what I mean?
Cardigan. Yeah.
But also, too, what just struck me is that what you said of 6 months later, you're pushing an album. And this is something I'm really advocating for right now. I think it's a good time to mix in the older strategies with the newer models, because back in the day, you had to push a record.
Yeah.
You could not just be like, my album is out, and then walk away. And that's what's happening. People are just like one post.
Yeah.
People drop. I don't understand that. You work all this time on on the project and you do one post, and then walk away. And they say, well, no, you got to feed it. You got to feed the algorithm. And yeah, you do. But at the same time, it's like, you don't reach the limit of who wants to hear your project unless you go out there and try to get as many people as possible exposed to it.
It requires repetition.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. So you know, one of my biggest songs on the album, Can We Still Be Friends, right? So one of those videos has done 2 million. Another one of the videos for the same song, same verse, 20,000.
Yeah.
You just got to keep putting it out.
Yeah.
You know, so like now if we throw out a video and it doesn't do any numbers, it doesn't bother me.
Does
you
not
just do
matter.
another one.
I love it. You
do another one.
Yeah.
And then you do another one.
Yeah.
And then you do another one, bro.
Yep.
You know? And like I said, man, I can't say that there's a science to this other than repetition. You know what
Consistency.
I mean? Consistency.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you said.
Yep.
It's like we were talking in the hall, bro. You don't get to 100 episodes successfully or go viral with what you do unless you continue to drop. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like-
or the worst thing you could do is go viral and then be like, well, I went viral.
Yeah.
Guess that's it for me.
Yeah.
I'm done. It's like, nah, bro, like keep going.
Yeah, bro. I mean, it's I really love it, man. I'm telling you, I'm having the time of my life, bro. You know?
So that's brings me to what I really wanted to ask you, bro. Is this really your last album? Are you really? You just got this whole new rebirth, and now you're kind of doing what I just said. You're like, well, went viral, 20 million views. Thanks, everybody. I'm retired.
You know, it's made the decision harder. It has absolutely made the decision harder. And I'll tell you what else is kind of magical about this moment, bro. It's like I got to be honest with you. I thought I was just gonna make this album. Do my tours, move on to my cooking show, move on to the rest of my life, be cool, you know. And then all this shit happened. You know what I'm saying? Then all this shit happened. So now I'm like, do I stick to my motherfucking plan? Or do I listen to what the universe is telling me?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it's made the decision very difficult. But so and then to make it even more difficult, I've been an independent artist my entire career. You know. So I own my own catalog, but my catalog right now is split up between 3 distributors, right? In August, everything comes back to me 100%. I will no longer be tied or obligated to any other distributor. So I'm like, I'm in the best motherfucking position of my life, bro. You know, tell me another artist, my era, my peer group, who has that right now. You know what I mean? It's like, oh my God. And my show got picked up. So I'm like, what do I do, bro? What the fuck
Your
do
cooking
I do?
show got picked
My
up?
cooking
Oh,
show got
congrats,
picked up.
man. Wow.
I can't tell you with who
Yeah,
by
yeah,
now,
yeah,
but
yeah.
my cooking show got picked up. So
Wow.
I'm like, suddenly I have more options that I could have even considered. Do you know what I mean? Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that I look at it, man, I look at it kind of holistically and spiritually. It's like, sometimes you got to tell the universe, I do love this, but I'm prepared to walk away
Sure.
if I need to.
Yeah, you got to be detached. Yeah.
And then as a result, the universe says, good thing you know that. Here you go.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
So, you know, as of right now,
It's a question mark. I mean, I wouldn't. It would. There's something dope about going out on top, right? That's like the ending of, I think, Rocky or something like that, right? Like you just won the championship and now you ride off into the sunset. Were you planning retirement and like, I'm quitting, I'm done with this, I'm ready to move on? This doesn't bring me the same feeling it brought me.
yeah.
I want to move on to other things in my life. Was that kind of the spark?
I mean, the feeling was that, you know, 16 albums, I had other things taken off from me in my life. I had other things that were calling me. I never was like, I'm going to stop making music. I just said, I don't want to make lyrics born albums for a while. You know what I'm saying? So I'll continue to do shows. I told myself I'll continue to do shows. I'll continue to do features. You know what I mean? I'll continue to manage and have this catalog. But do I want to make more lyrics born albums when, like I said, I mean, you know, my cooking show's getting picked up. There's other things that I have in the works that are happening. You know, is that something that I want to continue to pursue? So those were the questions and considerations that I had in mind. You know what I mean? And then, like I said, man, then all this shit happened, bro. I'm here with you, bro. I'm here with you right now.
We'll take it day by day.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been in that. I think every artist of any discipline has been like, fuck this. Either I'm done trying or I've done it all. Yeah. Which is probably you're on that side, like 16 albums and touring the world and all these things, right?
Yeah.
The ceiling gets a lot lower after a while, right?
Well, I think the difference now is that as we just spent a good portion of this podcast just discussing, bro, I didn't have the tools. We didn't have the tools that we do at this moment prior to that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to understand, bro, coming up in the 90s, bro, like, I went to high school with Souls and Mischief guys. You know what I mean? I went to college with the Quannum guys, the Solesides guys. You know what I'm saying? Like, I came up in this era where you had to be on a major label or some sort of independent label with major distribution.
Yeah, it's not a cheap thing to do, to record and release and market an album.
Bruh, and you talk about gatekeepers. I mean, that was it. That's all there was. There was gatekeepers, and then there was artists trying to make it through the gate. And that's it, bro. You know, and so these even as an independent artist, man, these tools were never available to us until now. You know what I'm saying? Particularly for Asian artists. You know, like I would spend decades walking up into labels, marketing agencies, booking agencies, talent agencies, any kind of creative agency, management company. I never saw a single person that looked like me. You know what I mean? For decades, bro. You feel me? Except maybe the interns, you know. But now, 10, 15, 20 years later, those interns are now in positions of power.
Right.
You feel me? So those other executives, they're gone, bro. Nobody knows where they at. They're gone, you know. So it's us now, you know. It's people that look like you and me. Like, I'll give you an example, bro. It was like when Black Alicious got signed to MCA, when Black Alicious got signed to MCA, Questlove goes in. This is how the story was relayed to me anyway. Questlove walks into MCA, goes to the executives and goes, you need to sign these guys. You need to sign these guys. They were making a tremendous amount of noise independently. He had that kind of leverage within the company. Deal was done. They got him signed. Amir did tracks on their album, right? I didn't have anybody like that. You know, I couldn't be like Mr. Miyagi, bro. Go talk to Leor Cohen for me. You know what I'm saying? Go talk to Russell Simmons. I didn't have anybody like that. You know, we didn't have anybody that had cultural leverage, you know what I'm saying, in these companies. Nobody that could greenlight a project, a movie, an album, anything. You know what I'm saying? So here I am on an island. You know, so what options do I have? I got to figure it out. But the blessing of all that is I got turned down by so many labels. It forced me into a position of independent ownership. If I wanted to make music, I had to be an owner. You know what I'm saying? And then here we are.
That's quite a journey, yeah. And I mean, that's what I was getting to is like there's all these different crossroads, right? Where it's like you could have packed it up and said, well, they don't want me because I'm Asian. You know, guess I'll try to do something else.
Yeah.
Like I was saying, I've had those moments too where I've gotten to the point where I'm like, oh, fuck this shit. And then something just happens.
For sure, yeah.
And I think what you're saying is the truth is like, you know, don't give up.
Right.
Don't quit on yourself. If this is really what you love, Because that's what it should be about. It shouldn't be like a get rich quick scheme or
Yeah.
an attention thing. It should be because I do this because I love it.
Right.
But be willing and accept that, all right, if I need to walk away
Yeah.
for whatever reason, I'm cool with that. If it doesn't happen, like having that lack of expectations, if it doesn't happen, because if you go into this game like, I want to have the #1 album in the country,
Yeah.
I want to be on MTV, I want my own movie, like that's kind of a tall order. But if you're like, I want to be the best at this as I can,
Yeah.
that's cool. But at the same time, you have to be willing, if it doesn't go the way you might want, cool. Because if you're in it for the love, you win regardless. You know?
Well, yes. Okay. I think, can I add to that?
Sure.
Can I respectfully disagree slightly with
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
So, this is the way I feel about that, man. You know, I look back and guess what label never dropped me? Mine.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Guess what label never said, no, we're not going to commit marketing money to you? Guess what label never did that? Mine. You know what I mean? Guess what label never said, I don't believe in you? Mine. You know what I mean? So I think the point is, guess what person never stopped believing in me? Me.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I think when you adopt that attitude, bro, you can do it all.
That's true.
You can do it all. I'm not sitting here with you if I didn't feel like I was one of the best.
That is true.
You know, I'm not sitting here with you right now. Let me just repeat that. I'm not sitting here with you right now unless I didn't think I was one of the best. You feel me? And if you have that attitude, it'll carry you through all kinds of adversity. You know what I'm saying? And you should have high expectations for yourself.
Okay.
You know, you absolutely should. But you have to understand also, once, you know, you can speak these things into existence, you can enact them into existence, but you also have to understand at the end of the day, all I can do is make the music, make the videos, put them out there, and then I have no control over how people perceive it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
Okay, well, with that conclusion, I don't think we were really in disagreement. That's basically where I was going. But
right.
no, that's the confidence and all that, and the belief is necessary for whatever you want to do.
I mean, but it doesn't mean that I didn't have those dark moments
Yeah.
where I'm like, oh, motherfucker, fuck this bullshit. Do I really need this?
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that those dark moments don't exist.
I know.
It's just, do I love it?
I know, yeah.
You know.
I mean, it's crazy that as you go through this journey, you'll find the most successful people have those. I go through those all the time.
For sure.
I just don't spaz out and broadcast that, right?
Yeah.
Because I got to keep my shit tight. I got to suck it up and keep going and say, hey, this is what I signed up for. So when it gets rough,
Yeah.
I can't turn around and pack it in. I got to just say, hey, man, this is what I signed up for, the good shit and the bad shit.
Comes with it, bro.
Mm-hmm.
It comes with it, you know. And you know, like I saw an interview one time, man, with Francis Ford Coppola, you know what I mean, who directed The Godfathers. Yep. And bro was like, you know, I have opportunities and I've missed opportunities. Success is when you have more in the opportunities column.
Yeah.
You know,
wow.
you
I like
can't, I mean,
that.
ain't no winning team in history that had a perfect record. It just
No.
doesn't exist,
Yeah.
bro.
Yeah.
You're going to take some L's.
Yeah.
But are they really L's
Yeah.
if you got there?
Right. Exactly.
Are they really L's if you got there? You know, your perspective has to change, man. You know?
I agree
Yeah.
completely. Man, I did not expect to spend this much time in just raw conversation, man. But we got a lot to talk about. But I do want to get into the history that we
Yeah.
kind of talked about too,
Yeah.
because you do have some deep roots in this. But man, you know, I think just to tie it back in, one of the videos I saw of yours that went really successful was the Shades of Jade. Amazing title too, by the way.
Thank you.
And now I think that one was so well received because you were so open and vulnerable and honest
Yeah.
about your background and your life.
Right.
So just let's put some of that in context, man. Talk about your early days before rap, before all this, about your journey coming up.
Yeah, yeah. So I was born in Japan. My father's Japanese, my mother was white, and they actually met on vacation in Mexico.
Nice.
You know, they were both on vacation in Mexico. They were married for a time. They lived in Japan for a time. They split up when I was around 1 or 2 years old. And my mother and I moved. She was very young, you know. My father was much older than her. My father was, I think when they met, he was like late 40s. You know, she was early 20s. So she had me at relatively young age, you know. That was really rare back then for, you know, a Japanese man, an Asian man to marry a white woman. You know what I mean? It was very different. It was different for back then, you know. So, you know, we moved to Salt Lake City, Utah, because my mother was in college. So you know, I just remember as a kid, you know, we lived in this little 1-bedroom rental house, and I just remember my mother's face was always in a book. You know what I mean? Because she was in college the whole time. I was like a toddler, and then going on into 5 and 6 years old. Then she met somebody new, and we moved to Berkeley. And so from I think second or third grade on, I lived in Berkeley, where I still live today. You know, and so. It was when I got to Berkeley that I realized there were people in the world that looked like me. You know what I mean? Because I didn't really see a lot of that growing up in Utah for those first few years. I knew from a very early age that I wanted to be an artist. You know, my father was a writer. You know, he wrote a lot of short stories. He ended up writing a novel, all in Japanese, you know, in Japan. And so I just remember as a kid, I saw a lot more of him when I was younger. When we moved to California, I saw less and less, you know, because he was there. He was splitting time between Japan and New York, and so I just didn't really see him that much. I mean, we talked, you know. I knew he was there. I knew he was around. I knew he cared, but we didn't have a lot of FaceTime, you know. So most of my experience was here, you know, here in the Bay Area and in Berkeley. And, you know, it was a very unique place, man, in the 80s and wildly diverse. You know, I think people think that the Bay Area is diverse now, but it was nothing compared to back then, bro. It was like people of color everywhere, you know, just all kinds. And I grew up in a city where, you know, you had all these influences, man, politically, you know, because we had just come out of like, you know, sort of the hippie era, you know, the protest era of the 70s going into the 80s, you know, when I was a kid and growing up. And like I just remember being on Telegraph when I was 6th, 7th grade, or, you know, just watching, or maybe even younger, just watching all these anti-apartheid rallies. And, you know, like I would go to my friend's house and, you know, like 2 or 3 of my friends would you'd see the pictures on the mantle, you know, of my friends' parents back in the day, and they got black glasses and black berets and black leather jackets and guns, you know what I mean? So like, you know, like a lot of my friends' parents were Panthers, you know, and so it was just a very interesting mix of people, you know. And I think now that I look back, I just don't think that my personal story could have happened anywhere else, you know what I mean? Just because of all these different styles and thoughts and ideas and cultures, you know. When I was young, I think the first rap song I ever heard, I think, was Rapper's Delight. You know, I was probably like first or second grade or something like that. But the crazy thing about that was when I went to Thousand Oaks Elementary in Berkeley, man, and I knew all the words to the song before I even heard the song. because for months, all the kids were just singing it on the yard. And I just learned the words and the lyrics just from being around other kids, you know. And then when I heard the song, I was like, oh, this is the song. And I just started singing along instantly. And it was at that moment I knew exactly what kind of artist I wanted to be, you know. And so I grew up, I went to all Berkeley school. You know, I went to King, I went to Rosa Parks, I went to Franklin, was shut down. I went to Berkeley High for a year. And I met that was where I met but I always had this love for hip hop, you know what I mean? I always had this love for hip hop. And I met his name was Onion at the time, you know, John Watson. He had a basement studio at his parents' house in Berkeley. And so I'm gonna, my real OGs are gonna know some of these names. So Mac Mill used to come through there. Kingpin Roski used to come through there. I used to be with those guys like every day after school, you know. Some guy from I think his name was Jay Def, a dude from Richmond used to come through. All these rappers used to come through. I think even Short may have come through at some point and recorded some stuff, you know what I mean? Later on, so that's like that 8th and 9th grade year, around that era was where I really cut my teeth and I really got a strong interest in rapping, you know, not just rap, but rapping, you know. He had a little drum machine down there and some turntables, and back then that was a big fucking deal, you know what I mean? That was a real big deal, and it was a really crazy time, man. Hip hop was so young, bro. Like I remember being 6th and 7th grade, like hearing these Too Short tapes with like Blowjob Betty and you know, Girl, that's your life. And all we could look at was this silver label that says 75 girls with some lipstick on it. You know what I mean? And you're like, all you had was your imagination, bro. Mm-hmm. And then you see this tape with this dude with some gazelles on and a leather blazer with no shirt. And, you know, like shot to short. But, you know, like all the OG short shit. You know what I mean? Like, I can't understate how much he influenced and how much he meant to Bay Area culture, hip hop culture. You can't. You know, he was the only game in town, really, you know, that was making actual records, you know. And so shout to Short, you know, and it was just an amazing time, bro, you know. So then eventually Mac Mill started putting out records. And he had all these underground tapes going around, and they were hard on me. They used to critique me, you know, and I learned a lot from those guys, you know. So I didn't do so hot at Berkeley High, you know. I told my mother at the time, I was like, you know, this is not going well. And she was like, yeah, I saw your report card, you know. I was like, okay. So she took me out. I eventually graduated from St. Mary's, you know, and, you know, at that time, thank God for St. Mary's, bro, in a lot of ways, man, because at that time, they would give anybody financial aid, you know what I mean? Like, I just remember her on the phone, are you sure? Can we make that a little bit less? Are you sure? Can we do that? And I just remember her writing checks for like $200-300 or whatever it was a month, like crazy cheap to go to a private school. You know what I mean? Like my cell phone bill is $200-300 a month now. You know what I mean? And when I went to school, Festo was there. You know, Russell Hornsby was there. Shakir Stewart was there. You know, legendary A&R guy. Went on to sign like Jeezy and went to Def Jam. I mean, we all used to hang out together, man. You know. Later on, Ryan Coogler was there, you know. I found out Chris Hicks went there. I think I'm right about this. I think Chris Hicks went there at one point, you know. And there was this sort of triumvirate of high schools, maybe 3 or 4 high schools that in the 90s and the 2000s, most of the rappers that we know that were prominent went to these 2 or 3 high schools. So it was like Skyline in Oakland, Berkeley High, St. Mary's, and Bishop O'Dowd, you know, like sort of that era of it. So like all the Hyro guys either went to St. Mary's, O'Dowd, or Skyline. Lateef went to Skyline. I went to Berkeley High, O'Dowd, and St. Mary's. I think Tajay went to O'Dowd, you know. And I know I'm leaving people out, bro, but it was sort of like this circle, this high school circle of guys from that era that went to those high schools, you know what I mean? And it was an amazing time, man. You know, by then, you know, then I graduated somehow, and I went to, ended up going to UC Davis somehow, and that's where I met the Black Alicious guys and Jeff Chang, who went on to be an award-winning author, you know, DJ Shadow I met there. Lateef ended up coming to Davis. Joseph Patel, who went there, who went on to produce Summer of Soul with Questlove and this Sly Stone documentary with Questlove. I mean, a lot of success stories basically along the way. So I've been very fortunate and very lucky, you know. And then that's when we started a label called Solesides in '93. I was a teenager when we recorded that first record, you know. I was 18. We recorded it in Dan the Automator's basement when Dan used to live with his parents, you know what I'm saying? And he had this little basement studio. It was probably a third the size of this room, you know, and it was, you know, he lived, his basement was in the Sunset, you know, and so the actual vocal booth was the dirt underneath his house, like the foundation. Like if I'm rapping into the mic, I can see the dirt and the pillars and piers that his house is on.
Right.
You know what I mean? And the control room was probably the size of a closet, just gear everywhere. Shout out to Dan, man. I mean,
shout out to Dan the Automator, baby.
Man, that is my brother. You know, that is, to this day, that is my brother. So, I don't think you can really even talk about Bay Area hip hop or hip hop in general, also, without talking about Dan. Also, you know what I mean? So we recorded our early records there. We started putting them out. You know, people. It was like 10 of us. All those guys that I just mentioned. It was 10 of us. Or something. We were all equal partners, you know what I mean? We didn't know what we were doing, bro. You put in $10, I'll put in $200. Oh, my cousin sells weed here. He's gonna give me $500. Oh, I got some money from a student loan. I'm gonna divert to this, you know what I mean? And back then we were like, okay, we're about to press records. So we made a vinyl 12-inch, and that was my first record, was 1993. And so that came out. There's still photos on the internet. You can see. Oh, and my man Benj, rest in peace, man. My best friend, bro. And we were at the Gavin convention. Did you ever? You I don't know.
It was before my time.
Before your time.
Everybody told me about it.
For sure. Yeah. So Kevy Kev put me on the bill at the Gavin. I went first at this. It was a club called the Stone. It was, I don't know what it is now. It was
on Broadway, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was over where like Big Al's is or whatever, you know, like all the strip clubs over there. So it was a Gavin showcase. Kevy Kev put me on the bill. Shout out to Kev. I went first, very first. Like it was still daylight outside, you know what I mean? It was like 6:30. I went absolutely first. It was me and Chief XL was DJing. And on that bill was Black Moon, Farside, Souls of Mischief, Cool G Rap with Nas, Curious, Apache, doing Gangsta Bitch, you know. I think Freestyle Fellowship. It was like 20 people on the motherfucking bill, bro, you know, and I went first. You know, that tape is still out there. I mean, that videotape is still out there. And we were, beforehand, we were sitting there on the street, on Broadway. It was either on Broadway or on the crosswalk. We had just gotten the vinyl back, the 12 inches. We're sitting there. We had white labels. The vinyl was blank. We went to motherfucking Kinko's, pressed up the labels on sticker paper, had them printed, and we're sitting there sticking them on every single record by hand outside the venue. Just like, turn it over. And then we just started giving them out, you know. From there, we took them to like Leopold's at the time, you know, Teeswauzy, all these other. Back then there were a shit ton of record stores, you know, mom and pop on. This is before Amoeba.
Mm-hmm.
Took them to Rasputin's. Everybody took them on consignment. You know, I remember Moses. I think Moses passed, man. Moses from Teeswauzy. I remember we gave him the record, and he was like, I don't know about this one, but I mean, I take it. You know, I don't know. I'll take it. You know, but what we found is what they sold in some stores better than others.
Right.
You know, so this was us out the trunk. You know, and then one record led to another. One record led to another. We would take that money. We would re-up. You know, put some up. You know, repress. Take that money. Record a new one. Black Alicious came out with an EP called Melodica. That did really, really well. You know, rest in peace, Gap. That did really well. We took that money, we put it into the Latyrix album with me and Latif. You know, that was 1997. That album did really, really well. Every album was doing better than the last, you know. Took that out. We put out Latyrix Musappers with Lady Don't Techno and all those songs, you know. That did better than the last one. Then we did Quannum Spectrum, you know, so we did a compilation album, then Black Alicious. Anyway, we just kept taking the money and reinvesting it. Meanwhile, we're still just students.
Right.
We're just college students, bro. We don't know what the fuck we were doing.
And DJ Shadow had the radio station at UC Davis, right?
Yeah.
So was that the college radio? This is a thing, too, that's, I mean, it still exists.
Yeah.
But I remember college radio was like the shit because you could just like call or mail a dude.
Yeah.
Some guy like, yeah, I'm the hip hop guy at KC, whatever. And just send them your shit. And you know, they'd be like, oh, I like this. And they would play it, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to like commercial radio where it's like payola, major label type shit usually. Or just like a really down DJ but the college radio shit was big. But Davis is also one of those markets. You got all those college kids from all over the place.
For sure. Yeah.
So it seems like kind of actually a good place to launch a rap career from.
It was, you wouldn't think so.
Yeah.
But it was because we were all isolated.
Yeah.
With nothing else to do.
Nothing, you're only show in town.
Yeah. So Jeff Chang had this radio show on KDVS, on the college station. So he had this thing called Name That Sample. You know, I kept winning. He play a record, you'd be like, name that sample. Well, me and Chief XL were already making beats, you know what I mean? So it was like, we knew everything, you know? So he's finally like, bro, just come down. Just come down to the show. We came down to the show. Shadow was there. That's how we all met. Then Chief XL and myself got a radio show. We learned from Jeff. We would see like all these OG groups like Lighter Shade of Brown would pass through on their promo runs. Kyrie from Young Black Brother came through. You know, he was pushing this guy, Mac Dre. We're like, who is this? Well, he's going to get out soon, man. You know, he's going to get out soon. So make sure you play this record. You know what I mean? And this is before, you know, kind of Thiz era, way before Thiz era, Mac Dre. You know what I mean? And all kinds of people Paris would pull up, you know. Like you said, man, college radio was the platform. You know, now it's History of the Bay, you know, or some other.
We're working on it. We're getting there.
You feel me? Yeah. Or you feel me? Like,
but it's online. It's podcasts and
now
playlists and SoundCloud and
that's right.
Streaming, DJ streams and stuff like that.
For sure. Back then it was college radio.
Yeah.
So anybody like Cube would send his records there.
Yeah.
Gangstar would send.
Yeah, you had to work all these in the college radio, the mom and pop stores, all these outlets.
Yeah.
It's like you had to hit as many of them as you could. Even if you were a large artist, you could not turn down any opportunity to do it in store, get on a show
in stores.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
These are like how there was no internet to publicize this shit. You had to take each experience to reach someone direct.
It was the physical era.
The physical era.
You know, motherfucker, you had to show up, bro.
Yeah.
You know, you had to put your body in these places for people to play your records, man.
So that's just to sidetrack briefly. That's what I was getting at earlier when I talked about mixing the old game with the new game. If you can go crazy on the internet and still pound the pavement, and give people an experience of being able to actually see you in person,
right?
That's a winning formula out there.
Yeah.
When you talked about like certain stores you did better than others. I'm gonna just be completely honest with you, right? Y'all shit was not on my radar coming up, right? Like I grew up in the hood. The shit that was hot to us was all basically gangster shit, right?
Sure,
it was RBL and Selsky and IMP.
I love all that shit.
I love all that shit too.
Oh my God, Cool Nut, bro.
All that, right? That's what we was listening to.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I always loved hip hop, right?
Yeah.
I love Tribe Called Quest. I love The Far Side.
Yeah.
Once I discovered Hyro, I was like, oh, okay, Souls of Mischief. I love samples. I love boom bap shit.
Yeah.
Quote unquote. But even then, y'all shit was in a different spectrum, right?
Yeah.
I guess I don't know how I would describe it. Avant-garde? I don't know what the word would be.
Yeah.
Backpack, I don't like that term. That doesn't even really describe what y'all stuff was very eclectic. I always respected it because I respect anybody that was just out, right? So I'm that kid that went to Tower Records and just looked at whatever was on the shelves, right?
Yeah.
And then as time goes by, you hear a little bit more like, oh no, yeah, they're from the Bay or they're from the East Bay or Black Alicious, right? Seeing Black Alicious videos on Channel 29 Public Access, right? I start picking up a little bit.
Said public access.
Yeah. But that shit was not it was not landing with my demographic. What's your take on that?
Yeah, so I mean, there were two hip hops at that time, you know? And I think you can look at this a couple ways, man. You know, I think you can see that the beauty of the Bay Area was that we had that kind of diversity. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of people don't notice. I've been making records just about as long as 40. You know what I mean? Like I remember going to T's Woes and he's like, I don't know, bro, this Click record is really what's selling. You know, he used to show me a tape, you know, like 40 sitting on a Cutlass or whatever that tape, you know. Right. And I'm like, wow, okay, but okay, you know, I'm not going to argue. Just thank you for taking my record, man. It'll sell if it sells, and if not, I'll come back and pick them up. You know what I mean? It's all good, you know. But what we were seeing was like 40, Spice One was independent at the time, Short was independent at the time. They were outselling us in certain stores, but we were outselling everybody else in others. Do you know what I mean? So like we would outsell a lot of mainstream stuff in Leopold's, in Amoeba, in places that were more kind of vinyl oriented. You know what I mean? And also we were killing on the road. We'd go on tour. We were touring more than major label artists of any genre. You know what I'm saying? So it was interesting when Calling Out came out in 2003. We took it to KMEL. It was a very different KMEL back then. You know what I mean? We took it to KMEL. We you know, it's like da 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 da. They're like saying our format. Live 105 picked it up. It went to number one. It went to number one. You know, and so that just goes to show you there was room for everybody at that time. You know, it just you had to adjust your method a little bit, though. You know what I'm saying? You had to adjust your method. But if you look at the whole model of independent hip hop and people touring and starting their own labels, that's one thing that we all had in common, right?
Right. I mean, I think that's something that persists to this day because I always talk about it. It's an underground mainstream where people are like, yeah, the Bay is these artists. And I'm like, well, what about this guy? I never heard of him. So he can't be shit because I never heard of him. It's just like, nah, bro, it just means you ain't heard of him.
Right.
But this dude you ain't heard of just sold out a whole tour in Europe.
For sure.
This dude you ain't heard of just got a write-up in Rolling Stone, right? This dude you ain't heard of got a line down the block. This dude that you saying is the hottest ever is not known outside of Northern California.
Right.
And there's no disrespect, but I just think people kind of got the game twisted in that sense.
Yeah, and I would say it's still like that, man. You know, it's still like that because, like, I was talking to Teak the other day, you know, the guy that produced my new album. Since Goodbye Sticky Rice blew up, I'm getting hit up by, thankfully, I'm so grateful for it. I'm getting hit up by all kinds of artists. You know what I mean? All kinds of people have been, you know, just shout me out like, bro, I love this song. Bro, I love that verse. Bro, that's Shades of J. Bro, this, you know, I love that. Wow, this, you know, thank you. You know, artists that you and I have heard of, bro. Everything from, obviously, Snoop Dogg to...
I saw Sugar Free in the comments.
Man, shout to Free, bro. You know, Sugar Free, Erykah Badu, my guy Lupe Fiasco, you know, Wood Harris, Dion Cole, you know, DL Hughley. I mean, you're like, this is Lyrics Born.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Crazy Bone, you know, that Mexican. I'm not trying to name drop. I'm just trying to give you the spectrum and show you how this has evolved.
Well, it goes to my point because, like I said, when we was stuck on that mob music, like I said, once I was able to discover hieroglyphics or MF Doom or nonfiction, all that, you know, underground stuff, I was like, oh, this is raw.
Yeah.
They spitting. This is dope. It's just a matter of the exposure.
Yeah.
Like I just wasn't being shown. A lot of us weren't being shown. We were being shown a very one-sided view.
That's right.
Of what hip hop is, and you know, I just salute you on always doing you and breaking those boundaries, bro.
Thank you. And to your point, that's the beauty of the internet right now. The reason why you were exposed to those things was because those artists that you mentioned that you did listen to had push. They had push. We didn't have that kind of push.
The push from those artists was they were the dudes in their neighborhoods and in their city. So that's the push I was seeing.
Okay.
But for me, like I said, I discovered shit by just digging in the record store.
Right.
So if something looked tight, I might be like, oh, I never heard. And I was always like, this is why I do history debate, because I always try to one up people like, you ain't never heard of this. Right. Oh, you heard that? Okay, well, what about this? Yeah. So I always try to like study.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, I don't know, man. We could go really deep into this, but people are just shown things very one-dimensionally, especially when it comes to rap music or black music or, you know what I mean, or urban demographics is shown very one-sided. So I tried to do my work to like break out of that and just dig. You know what I mean?
And you're succeeding at that, bro. You know, I mean, what you're doing here is important work. You know what I mean? And I think, because I follow and I see, man, so many legends that you've had on this show, bro, you know, and it's important that those guys now have a platform because of this.
Appreciate it.
You know what I'm saying? Like, not that everybody wasn't always doing their own thing or dope, but it's something about platforms and lending that person the platform that is so powerful. It's stronger than something that any label could ever do. It's stronger than, I mean, and I'm living proof of that right now at this moment. You know what I mean?
For sure.
So
yeah, and I appreciate it because that's one thing that works for me and what I strive for is to serve as that connective tissue. Yeah. To where I just had to.
That's a good word.
Now I'm sitting down with you. I done had Casual up here.
Yeah.
I done had Be Legit. It's just I try to go all side, DJs, producers, rappers, dancers. I try to show all angles of it.
Well, it is all the history of the day.
It has to be. Yeah. It wouldn't be the history of the day if
right.
It wasn't. Yeah. Well, like I said, I started finding out about you after you had already been doing your thing. And then for purposes of this podcast, I did a little digging just to familiarize myself a little more. And your early stuff with like Latif, very, very, very lyrical. You can rap like a motherfucker, bro. Like, yo,
Hell yeah.
You be rhyming, bruh.
Yeah, thank you, man.
What were your influences in your style, and what is your writing process?
Yeah, so it's evolved over the years. You know, I think at that time it would be me, Latif, and Gab going at it. That's it. I'm gonna write a better song than you. You're gonna try to write a better song than me. You're gonna write a better verse than me. But we were still extremely supportive of each other, you know. And we knew because, okay, Hyro's over here. We know them dudes can rap. You know, we know that they're gonna come with some heat, right? So it's got to hold up or be better in my mind. You know, LP and them are over there. You know, on the East Coast, we with Def Jux, and this is pre like Run the Jewels. You know, it's like okay,
Cannibal Ox and all that.
We know we got to be good. You know, it was very competitive at that time, and because nobody got any airplay, the competition was not to make hits. The competition was not who can sell the most records. It was just different criteria back then for what was dope. You know what I mean? It wasn't like, okay, we didn't have any aspirations of going triple platinum, right? That's just not the music that we made, you know. It was, in retrospect, maybe that held us back a little bit, but all we were thinking about were other rappers, you know. So what that did was it turned us all into very good rappers, you know, very, very good rappers. As time went on, it became clear that, okay, I can be a great rapper, but I have to make great songs.
Yeah.
I can be a great rapper. I can say some fly shit, but can I write hits? Can I write choruses? Can I put songs together that people will sing for me? You know what I mean? That have legs, that get played in various different settings, on the radio, at parties, in the club, you know, in your headphones, in the car. There's all these different. Now you do whatever you want to do. You choose whatever platform you want. But that was my choice. I'm like, okay, I know I can rap at this point. Can I make hits? Can I make songs that I can sell out shows and I can do less work because everybody else will sing them for me? You know what I mean? That really turns me on right now. You know what I mean? Like being able to write those songs that people can sing the choruses to and still spit and make my point.
Yeah, that's the impression I get because I've been listening and I'm like, this ain't something that this dude just, or maybe it is, but it sounds like it. Like I imagine it takes you a while to write.
Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, man.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes songs write themselves, bro. Sometimes I got to sit there and shit day in and day out and write that verse. It just depends. Sometimes it might not be Love. You know, the song off my album now took me 10 minutes, top to bottom, 10 minutes. You know, Take It Too Far, a month. You know, it just depends, bro. You know, and you have to give yourself up to the process, you know. So, you know, and I don't think that's my method.
Yeah.
That's my method, you know.
It's good to know. You brought him up, and I want to give him some shine on this platform because he's no longer here with us. But Gifted Gab,
Yeah.
Very renowned lyricist. I had the opportunity to see him live a couple times.
Did you?
Dude could really flow.
Yeah.
Black Alicious, very beloved group.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speak on his and his memory and some times that you spent with him.
Yeah, Black. I mean, he's man. He will always be the bar for me. You know, he will always be the bar. And I've said this before. I mean, he is probably hands down the best rapper I have ever been in contact with in real life, you know. And I've been around, you name it, bro. Come on, I've seen them all, you know. But he is hands down the best rapper that I've seen rapping with my own eyes, you know. And he was just so unique and prolific. He was just a different kind of dude, man. He didn't care about money. Didn't care about cars. Didn't care about jewelry. Didn't care about credit. And all the shit that I care about, he didn't give a fuck, bro. You know, all he cared about was that next song. That's how dedicated he was, you know. He was like a savant, you know what I mean? Like, for whatever reason, he'd write a song, 3 verses, 16s, all 20s, really long verses, really, really long. He'd be like, you know, I don't like this. Rewrite the entire song within 24 hours. 3 whole new 16s or 20s. I've seen him in battles. I've never seen him lose a battle. You know, the first time I met him, sitting on the couch, just high as hell, you know, all rapping, I was like, oh shit, this dude's way better than me. You know what I mean? Like, at that time. That's how I felt at that time, you know. And he just never stopped searching, you know, for how to make that next best song, that next best album, you know. I wonder sometimes, you know, like, you know, he passed just after the pandemic was just after the we were all wanting him to have that moment, you know, after the pandemic, when he had, you know, he struggled with a lot of demons, you know what I mean, and he had finally turned the corner on a lot of that stuff, and we were all really hopeful when finally the pandemic lifted, and we were very we wanted to see him have his moment in the sun, man, you know what I mean, where he was finally getting healthier, and it just didn't happen, man. You know, it just didn't happen, bro. So, but he will always be the bar for me, you know, in terms of just the level of excellence, you know, and artistry.
No doubt. Yeah, I mean, thank you for sharing that. That's why I want to have someone at some point, again, going back to this platform, that's what it's for, right? Like, I haven't had the opportunity to talk to someone until now that had that type of relationship with him, but I want to make sure that, you know, all of our legends are remembered in this way.
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Well, going back to your own journey, I was talking about, like, I guess, for lack of a better fucking term, the whole boom bap shit that y'all were doing. But at some point, you went heavy into the funk.
Yeah.
And incorporating live instruments, touring with a whole band.
To this day.
What sparked that transition?
I think I didn't grow up in a musical household. You know, I did not grow, like, my parents were not really into music. Except my father loved the OJs. You know, how this Japanese man that grew up in Japan ever heard of and loved the OJs, I have no fucking idea. But that was my only sort of lasting memory musically as a child, you know. And I think as I got older and I started digging and producing, I got reacquainted with that. You know, and I think that what I love, and I saw how funk evolved into hip hop. I mean, to me, it was like, especially at that time, like, when you see, particularly California hip hop or West Coast hip hop in the late '80s, early '90s, It really was. It picked up where funk left off, you know. Like, to me, one of the funkiest rap songs ever is E40 Sideways, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
like all that mob
That was
shit.
produced by a guy named Funk Daddy.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
I never knew. I thought that wasn't Studio Tone?
That was Funk Daddy from Seattle.
Oh, shit.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's a little history trivia right there.
I know you know.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. So, I mean, all that shit was like short, obviously, you know. So, especially growing up in the Bay Area, there was never any lapse between like Parliament, and then it kind of went into Too Short. And in my case, you know, I was around like Mac Mill and Onion, and you know, like I said, I didn't grow up in a musical household, but I would hear the records that my friends' parents listened to. You know what I mean? And one thing, you know, just digging and studying and being a student of hip hop, you see how much of it was funk based, you know. And so I fell in love with James Brown, you know. I fell in love with Curtis Mayfield and Parliament and just all those were Parlette and all. God, so many, bro, so many. And I eventually really, aside from James, really loved 80s funk that I was hearing on the radio when I moved to California for the first time. You know, KSOL was on the air at the time, you know what I mean? I was just a little kid, man, you know, and I was just like, this is the most incredible shit I ever heard, you know? And I think for me, it's just the feeling, you know? It's the feeling and just the rebelliousness, you know, like you listen to Shout to George, you know, but the freedom of it, you know what I mean? And it was that kind of freedom that migrated into hip hop, you know, that made it so special. And the thing I realized, bro, about funk, you can say anything you want. No matter how ridiculous, no matter how political, no matter how serious, no matter how sexual, no matter how outrageous, controversial, if people can dance to it,
Right.
you get a pass, bro. You get a motherfucking pass. And in that way, it's unlike any other music in the world.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Because there was so much in there disguised as a good time.
Very well said.
You feel me?
Yeah.
So that's why it's so powerful for me.
Dope.
You know, and that's why it really speaks to me. And it's funny, like when people heard Can We Still Be Friends? Or I thought I was just making funk. And everybody's like, oh, this is G-Funk Revival. And I'm like, it wasn't to me. But if it is to you, cool. You know, again, I just make it. I have no control over how you receive it. You know what I'm saying? But to me, I was just making funk. It was just the SOS band of my childhood. You know what I mean? Or, you know, Alexander O'Neal or somebody. You feel me? Or Prince or somebody. You know, it's just that was the music I heard on the radio in elementary school. You know?
Yeah, the music is still very universal, and yeah, it's just that bass and those drums, and it's just inducive to movement.
Yeah.
And I imagine that's also a big part of what's kept you on the road, because you be touring, huh?
Yeah. I mean, I've changed the way that I've toured now. Like, it's interesting now that this record has taken off. It's like I'm no longer, and frankly, I don't want to be on the road for 200 days out of the year like I used to be. You know, I don't want to do that anymore. I'll take the festivals now. You know, I'll take the week here, weekend there. I mean, it still adds up to 100 dates a year.
How long were you doing a tour schedule like that?
I did probably 150 to 200 dates a year for 10, 12 years, 15 years.
Consistently.
Up until the pandemic. Yeah.
Damn, homie. That's a lot of work, bro. But this is what I'm saying. It's like,
Yeah.
bro, people be. I wanna get this on record because people be having this. These motherfucking rap cats nowadays don't be doing no shows.
Mm-hmm.
They don't even do local shows, let alone like get on the road. Out of them 150 days, are you selling out every day, or are you thugging it out? And some nights it's like, well. or are you just constantly?
That's a really
go?
That's a really good question, man. I'm glad you asked that, bro. Because when you do a tour, if you're on a tour for 3-4 weeks, let's say, you got to fill those Monday and Tuesday nights,
Right?
You know, you got to fill those Sunday nights
Yep.
that people don't come out. You know, so typically when you put a tour together, you're gonna save the big cities for the weekend. And then the next weekend, you have the next big cities in the next big state. Well, there's a lot of miles in between those two regions. So you're going to play the little clubs, the little venues on the Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. You know, you're going to...
You're going to have to roll the dice.
You feel me? Like you're going to play, you know, you're going to play. So, for instance, if we're rolling in back into California, you know, let's say we're coming from, I don't know, the Northwest. Let's say we're coming from Seattle or Portland or someplace. Okay, Independent or the Fillmore is the Friday, right? So that's, you know, anywhere from 600 to 1,500 people, 600 to 1,500 people. But 3 days earlier, you might have played Cloverdale on a Tuesday for 150 people because that's the biggest venue in the city. That's it. You know, you don't have any options, but you got to fill those dates. That is what I don't do anymore. That's why I stopped doing that. I'm like, let me just go ahead and go out and play these dates because I got to be online for those other 3 days. You know what I'm saying?
So it's more lucrative for you to have the time
at this point
to work on your art, your content, than it is to get whatever little ticket sales you can from a small show like that.
That's right.
And then all them people in Cloverdale can just commute, right? If they really want to see you, they can make the drive to 2-3 hours to come pull up on you.
And I've been seeing that. You know, I see it. People online like, I'm gonna come in to see you I'm flying in New Orleans from Mississippi.
Yeah.
Or I'm flying into Denver. I'm gonna come see you. I live in, you know, New Mexico. I'm gonna fly to come see you. Do you know how valuable that is? Do you know how valuable that is? I mean, that is to get to that point in your career where you become a destination.
Yep.
You are a destination for people. You know what I mean? It's I love it, bro. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like because the era that I came out in, it was that crapshoot shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some cities you get to and it's like, whoa, it's cracking right here.
Right.
They might not even know that much about you. They're just like, there's a guy rapping here.
That's right.
Let's go. We got nothing else to do. This is a great venue. And then it's cracking, right? And then sometimes you get there and you're like, oh, fuck. Fuck. Guess we're eating at 7-Eleven tonight, bro. What we gonna do? Like, let's get some microwave burritos and cut our losses, right? But I feel like a lot of people are scared because it's all on video now. And you see these motherfuckers online like, they only got 50 people at their show, clowning people. And it's just like, well, the fuck, man? 50 people is actually, it's not a small number of people if you really think about it, right? 100 people ain't. I understand, like, obviously you want to sell out, like you said, 600,000 and up, all that. But I feel like people are scared to have footage or just the appearance of playing for a mostly empty room. Now, if that's all you're getting, then yeah, you might need to reevaluate some things. But I feel like it's part of the journey of thugging it out and building that base to where the next time you show up, it's gonna be more people because of the consistency.
You know, that's a great point. I think a lot of another big thing that I learned is, and I learned this from Hyro back in the day, merch.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you can triple your guarantee.
Yeah.
If you got something to sell.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If you got something to sell, you could triple your guarantee. I mean, how many people? I still see people running around with the, you know, the Hyro little kids.
For sure.
You know what I mean? They didn't have to go tour for that. You know, look what Larry's doing, man. You know, look what look at all these artists that have Spider and Yeezy, and you know, I mean, all these artists have brands now. You know what I'm saying? That's smart. It's smart. So you know, I'm not gonna tell you who, but somebody once told me it's about a lot of people count heads and not bread. You know what I mean? So think about it like that. You know?
That's a good game right there. That's why I wanted to sit down with you, bro, because, like, yeah, I just want to present all sides of the game because there's so many ways to get it. And
more than ever.
And I really hope that some of these conversations we have reach artists that need to hear it as much as fans, but I hope there's artists that can soak some of this stuff up and apply it because, yeah, I come from the era where it was like, show me the money.
Right.
I don't need to be the biggest name in town, but if you know how to get it, you can get it. And I feel like we said, that independent thing that 40 and Short was doing, y'all was coming from the same thing.
Yeah, 100%. Method was exactly the same. Music was different.
Right.
Method was exactly the same, you know.
Right.
So, and still to this day, I mean, there's a lot of people that you could probably say I make music different to, but the method is the same. Sure. You know, so, yeah.
Well, that's what's up, bro. What should we look out for? I mean, apparently not another album, right? Stay tuned, I guess. We'll find the answer. Leave it.
Not today, bro.
Not today.
Not today.
Okay. Yeah. Well, you know, I guess in closing, like, no matter what you decide to do, very proud of your success.
Thank you, man.
I look forward to your cooking show.
Yeah.
And yeah, anything else that you ever need, man, support, I'm right here. We'll stay locked in.
Likewise, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Likewise.
I'm sure there's more we could talk about, so we'll do a part 2.
Yeah, man. I mean, I can tell you, man, lately I've been doing a lot of motherfucking podcasts, bro, and I was geeked about this one.
Oh, right on.
I was geeked. You know what I mean? You can ask anybody in my family, like, you doing History Debate? You doing History Debate?
That's dope.
You know, so, yeah, it's rippling, bro. It's rippling out, man. I can tell you that. You know what I mean?
That's great, man. Yeah. I mean, I appreciate everybody like yourself that comes on here. It's really, the guests are just so important to this. And like I said, I pride myself on being able to highlight a diverse range of artists and people. And I say this sometimes, but I mean it. It would not be complete without Lyrics Born. So,
thank you. Appreciate you, man. I appreciate that a lot.
Likewise.
Yeah, man. Until
the next one, Dregs One signing off. LB in the building. Goodbye, Sticky Rice.
Recognize where you got the game. We got our own style, got our own slang. Northern California is a West Coast thing. This is the history of the Bay. Recognize where you got the game. We got our own style, got our own slang. Northern California is a West Coast thing. This is the history of the Bay.